I'm curious to see what Bryan Johnson, the self-experimenter, most measured man in the world, what he's doing for his longevity and health. We're going to cover sleep, dental care, skin care, hair loss, and nutrition. Let's dive in.
I had poor sleep my entire life, and I just logged what is potentially the best sleep score in human history, 8 months of perfect sleep.
Okay, so how is he logging that sleep? How is he measuring it? How valid are those measurements? Some questions here.
I'm going to share with you what I did to achieve that perfect sleep score. They do not require $2 million a year, and I'm going to give them to you for free today.
Love him or hate him, the fact that he takes his wealth and he experiments on himself and then distills it down and tries to offer value. And yeah, there's a business here too. He's building Blueprint, right? And he's selling products too. But I think his emphasis on a lot of the free things like optimizing your sleep for free, exercising, a lot of the time very low cost or free. I think it's admirable.
Now I know that sleep doesn't solve all things, but it helps me feel well enough and full of energy that I want to do everything else that's good for me.
Dude, sleep is so important. I was talking to a friend recently that now that I'm 34, when I don't have good sleep, I keep waking up at 7 to 7:30 every day. And even if I sleep a little bit later, I had a neighbor that was having some loud karaoke session with their fellow 60-year-old retirees on a Monday night. And I slept later as a result. And I still woke up at the same time and I felt horrible that whole day. And I had my tea or my caffeine and I exercised and I felt horrible the whole day. And when you're younger, you can get away with it, or at least you think you can, because that you don't notice as much of a hit, as much of a dip in your performance, your energy, your focus, all those things. But as you get older, you notice it more and more. A good way to put that in perspective is think, how do you react to alcohol as you get older, from when you're 21 to when you're 31?
Currently, grind culture is the dominant way of understanding sleep, which is you don't need a lot of it, and you're actually weak if you get it. That's foolish. Don't do that. The wise thing to do is to make sleep your number one priority. You will feel better, you will look better, and everything in life will be easier. Level 2 is to have a consistent bedtime. This is really important because you're telling your body, we do sleep at this time every day.
This is actually probably the single most important thing, because if you don't have this thing dialed in, all the other tactics of bedroom cooling, blackout shades, etc., that we're going to get to, they don't move the needle as much as being consistent. Now, it's a lot harder for certain lifestyles if people want to go party on Friday, Saturday, stay up really late, and then try to reset their clock come Sunday night. But if you're able to minimize that shift and keep your sleep and wake times very consistent, it's going to be so much better for falling asleep, staying asleep, and feeling better, feeling more restored.
So you can make adjustments in your life. Have dinner earlier, plan earlier, put it on your schedule. Think of this as your most important meeting of the day. When you show up to work on time or have meetings with your friends, if you're even 5 minutes late, you apologize. Don't disappoint yourself and show up on time.
Oh, I like that, having it set as like a meeting. I like that.
When bedtime arrives, Talmadge and I will stop whatever we're doing and run to our bedtimes. We do this tongue in cheek. It's funny because we're saying to each other, we respect bedtime in this family. We know we're going to be better family members with each other if we get our sleep. For my bedtime, I've chosen 8:30. I love the morning time, especially the 4 hours of time I have all by myself. No one's calling me, no one's messaging me. I have it all to myself.
Dude, seeing him with such great, perfect posture, I'm like, oh man, I gotta sit up more upright.
So I really like to go to bed at 8:30, then I have the morning wide open. That said, you do you. If you're a night owl and you prefer to go to bed later, that's okay. Just choose your bedtime and be consistent.
It's so hard to get into that rhythm too. I found that by forcing myself to get up at the desired wake up time, the sleep time will then follow, because trying to fall asleep early is very frustrating, especially if you have sleep onset insomnia. So let's say I want to start waking up at 6 and sleeping at 9:30. I have to first start waking up at 6 and suck it up the first couple of days of sleep deprivation and not feeling great. That's what's worked best for me. I've tried to just slowly shift it to. This seems to be the most effective. I have been happiest when I sleep 9:30 to 10 and wake up at 6. And I should get back to that, because nowadays I'm sleeping at 11:30, doing too much sim racing, waking up at 7:30.
Level 3 is have a wind down routine. I know from personal experience that when I go to bed and I'm thinking about the day's problems or some opportunity, anything that's on my mind, if my head hits a pillow all night long, I'll just think about it. So what I do now is sleep Bryan enters the equation 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime. And if an incoming thought says, oh, you should be worried about this, or you should think about that, Sleep Bryan says, thank you for suggestion. Sleep mode is now engaged.
I find it hard to just turn that off if the thought is already running. I keep a journal in my nightstand. So journal and pen, because I don't want to look at my screen. It's going to be bright, blue light, wake me up. But by writing that thing down, I then no longer have to worry about it. Like,
oh, I gotta really remember to do this tomorrow.
I write it down, and I can look at that tomorrow in the morning.
I would encourage you, create a ritual, read a book, go for a walk, do some favorite hobby, but avoid screens and avoid anything that's going to get you aroused. Don't have fights, don't tackle hard problems, get ready for bed.
So one thing that I should not be doing recently is doing a lot of sim racing at night, because it's very elevating, right, to your energy state. It's an arousal state from when you're competing with others. It's your heart rate goes up. You're really focused on trying to get the car to rotate, etc. And then if I'm amped, it's harder for me to fall asleep. I used to focus so much more on things like how bright the lights are, noises, blackout curtains, which are all very important. But only in the last couple of years have I focused on the arousal state more, because even if those things are dialed in, if you're doing something that is arousing, and let's say I keep my screens at a lower brightness and I have the night shift so it's less blue light, just the fact of racing online in my sim rig is going to be elevating. So avoid those things. And I even avoid business books now, because I get inspired and energized and excited to do things on my business when I read business books. So I'll either read nonfiction that is not related to business, or I'll read fiction at night.
Level 4 is to eat early. I know this because I tried hundreds of experiments with food types and eating times, and I found that I slept the best with Blueprint food and my last meal of the day at 11 a.m.
That's like my first meal of the day.
Now, this does not mean that you need to eat at 11 a.m. as well. What this means is it's an invitation for you to try to explore eating earlier, and also trying to avoid big, heavy meals at the end of the day that could really be having a negative effect on your sleep.
So the way that I've noticed the meal impact is through measuring it, right? So I do wear a CGM, and I track that thanks to levels. More videos and a link to a special discount code in the description. And then also I use various sleep trackers, and I've done reviews on the big sleep tracking rings. I also use an Apple Watch and a Whoop, and I use an 8 Sleep. So all these things are tracking my sleep, and consistently, if I'm eating late, I see my blood sugar all over the place. I see my sleep quality drop. I feel less restored in the morning. So I will never stop eating at 11:30. That's far too early for me. But having dinner at 5:36 versus 8, huge difference in my sleep.
When I go out for social events, I will eat something. Sometimes I try to find a light food like steamed vegetables or something like that, because having a plate in front of me with food makes everyone feel comfortable. If I don't have it, then everyone's like, why are you not eating? And it's a whole thing. So I really try to blend in to avoid creating chaos in social situations.
Smart.
All right, level 5 is hopefully an obvious one. You want to avoid stimulants or anything that's going to disrupt your sleep. That includes alcohol and caffeine. I know personally, if I drink any alcohol in the latter part of the day, my deep sleep is going to be about 80% less. It just decimates my sleep. So I now have no alcohol. Caffeine, we metabolize caffeine at different speeds, but I've stopped all caffeine as well. It really has helped me improve my sleep. So just for you to consider that these things may potentially be degrading your quality of sleep, and to be mindful of what you consume and when you consume it.
Brian's not saying that everyone needs to follow exactly his protocol. He's just saying for him, the extreme is the solution. He enjoys it and it's fun for him. But for most of us, myself included, I will occasionally continue to drink alcohol. But I know that I'm never going to have more than 2 drinks in a single evening. And I'm also not going to have the drink right before I go to sleep. I want to have it closer to dinner time. And is that optimal for my sleep? No. But I'm reducing the hit so that it is barely perceptible versus cutting it out completely from my life. Because there are some benefits that I experience psychologically, socially, by engaging in that. Similarly, with caffeine, I don't think you have to cut it out completely. I think the issue is that a lot of Americans, the American culture is like sledgehammer. Look at American cars. It's all about power, not about finesse. And anyways, we do car reviews on the Jabal and Cars channel for those who are interested. And you see that in our food, you see that in our cars, you see that everywhere. And when it comes to caffeine, it's like, let's have coffee with a crap ton of caffeine, make it sugary, highly suboptimal. I do a lot of tea because lower dose of caffeine has L-theanine, has other compounds that don't give you as much of that jitteriness and as much of an edge. So if you cycle your caffeine, which I do cover in another video, then you don't have to worry so much about the downsides of caffeine. Keep the doses low, don't do it every single day, and for more details, check out that video.
Level 6 is regulate light in the evening.
Huge.
So a few things for you to keep in mind is I have an app on my computer, Flux.
I used to use that several years ago. I'm surprised this video is from this year. It's built into Mac OS and Windows now too, so you don't even have to use Flux. But Flux was like the hot thing back when I was in med school, but now it's built into both computer and mobile devices.
2 is if I'm watching a movie with friends, I'll put on a pair of blue light blocking glasses. My room is entirely blacked out with curtains, and if I'm traveling, I will wear a mask.
Blackout curtains, so key. I've spent way too much money because I tried one set of blackout curtains that were like the budget option, learned my lesson there. Those were $2,000 of these motorized shades, had to rip those out, get new ones installed with like, they couldn't fit, had to put a custom window frame. And it sounds ridiculous, and it was so much time and effort and work, but I knew sleep is a priority. So I put in the time and effort, working with different contractors, getting the thing installed, then talking to the shades installation people, got it installed, and it's mostly there as long as I'm sleeping at night when it's not bright sunlight. The amount of light in the room is almost zero. During the daylight, a little bit creeps around the edges, but super important. If I could do it all over again, I'd probably just do curtains that fully block out everything completely.
And if I'm traveling, I will wear a mask.
And I agree, when traveling, eye mask is key. I always travel with one.
So you're trying to avoid light that is going to otherwise disrupt your sleep. Probably the most important thing here is just try to eliminate screens in that downtime before bed.
That's the simplest one, but also the hardest one, right? Easier said than done. I think the easiest way to do it is to put your phone in another room outside of your bedroom so you're not tempted to even look at it.
Level 7 is to maintain an ideal temperature for your sleep. You, of course, we can say specific numbers, but everyone's different. And so more important is, either it being too hot or too cold is going to create suboptimal sleep. And there's also considerations with a partner and other members in the family. So for my own personal temperature control, I use an 8 sleep mattress.
Nice, me too. I actually have a full 8 sleep review up here. In short, it's not perfect, but it definitely has elevated my sleep quality and helped me fall asleep faster. Definitely recommend it. And special discount below in case you're interested too.
During my deep sleep, it's down to 71 Fahrenheit. And then during my REM, it's up to 73.
Now, I find that over the course of the year, because I've been using mine now for like a year and a half, that in the summer versus winter months, that temperature needs to change, right? Not just based on, even if my home temperature is set to the same, I still feel like I need to have some slight tweaks here and there. It's not always going to be, for me, like in the summer, I'm maybe 67, 68. And then during the winter, I'm maybe 73, 74 as the temperature when I'm first falling asleep.
Consider changing your thermostat or aircon settings, experimenting with different types of bedding, and opening doors for increased airflow.
But if you open a door, you're not going to get as much blackout, right? Almost every door that's going to give you more ventilation is going to counter that. Now, what I do in my house, I have some smart home integrations, smart lights, smart thermostats, etc. So every day at 8 p.m., it's my wind down routine. And what happens is the lights throughout my home become a dim red, far more calming, less stimulating, less blue light. And also the thermostat also switches to a cooler temperature. So in the summer, it cools it down to 71. And in the winter, it heats it up. Well, it wouldn't be heating it up because if I'm already at home, it'll be warmer than this. But let's say I just come home at nighttime, it'll keep the temperature at least 67. Because if it's lower than 67 inside, I find that it's too cold. And that's just a way to automate these things so that you don't have to think about it every day. Reduce that friction, automate things. It's a lot easier.
Level 8 is creating a peaceful sleep environment. Now, I have 3 kids. If I could travel back in time, I would sit everyone down and say, we are a sleep family. And here are the rules of how we do sleep. We go to bed on time. We never get up at night. We never wake anyone up unless we feel like our life is being threatened.
I like that.
But also other things. One of my neighbors has barking dogs. So I called her and she was more than willing to say, I understand your bedtime is at 8:30, so after 8:30, I will make sure they're in the home, in their kettles. Very considerate. So you can do things with neighbors, with partners, with friends. Don't feel shy in asking.
Dude, I wish those neighbors doing karaoke at midnight had a little bit more consideration. He has some cool neighbors. On a Monday, mind you.
I do nothing in my bedroom except for sleep. I don't read in there. I don't watch movies. I don't hang out. It's for sleep because I'm telling my body, when you get into this position, your objective is sleep. And if you're doing things all day, then your body can get confused. So it's really important to have a dedicated sleep environment.
It's going to be hard for some people to do that. I mean, before I moved to this house, I was in an apartment where I just had one bedroom, right? So my desk where I worked and my bed was in one spot, which is not optimal because then your mind can associate work in your sleeping space. So if you do have the opportunity, keep your bedroom for sleep and then have your desk maybe in the living room outside or in another bedroom if you do have that space and that luxury. I personally actually enjoy reading though in my bedroom because especially if I'm reading fiction, I associate that with wind down, falling asleep, and it helps me stop thinking and ruminating about the serious things in my life, the health, the work, the family, the fitness, etc. the things that I'm worrying about during awake time. It lets me put those aside and prepare for sleep. So I actually enjoy reading, and I've made that association. Reading fiction in my bedroom in my little reading nook before bed is part of that wind down process.
Level 9 is light.
Didn't we already cover light?
The first thing I do in the morning, I wake up around 5:30, naturally every day.
My guy, there's a lot of clutter on your counter.
I turn on 10,000 lux and I do that for a few minutes. It tells my body, you're awake, the day's beginning. It helps with mood, it helps with energy. And again, it tells the body, we get up at this time and now we're up.
What's helped me a lot is actually going outside. I just go check my mail every morning. That's my way of going outside. Maybe I meander a little bit, look around, get more time with that sun exposure. And that I've noticed also helps me start feeling tired at the appropriate time. So it energizes you and sets the circadian clock so that you know when to start winding down subconsciously.
And when to wake up, and you start having these compounded benefits as you repeat these behaviors continually. I think that's why, in large part, I was able to achieve an 8-month perfect sleep score.
Okay, so he's using Whoop to track. It's not perfect, right? But if the person who has an average of 100% sleep score is almost certainly getting better quality sleep than the person who averages at 50%. And Whoop is taken into account things like your consistency. It has some estimations for your various sleep stages. Looks at your heart rate, HRV, etc. So again, it's a consumer grade device, and this is not a perfect measurement. But I want to call attention to the fact that he's having good quality sleep to get 100%. Is he necessarily getting better sleep than the person who scores an average of 90, 95% on the Whoop sleep score tracker? Not necessarily, but with that magnitude shift, most of us who use Whoop or any sleep tracker are nowhere near 100%. So while this method doesn't have the scientific rigor that we would want to see in an actual experiment in the scientific literature, there's still some value here.
I typically try to avoid the times of day between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. when the UV index is high, but the morning and the night are great times to get sunlight exposure.
Yeah, towards the night, especially around sunset, also helps you with that low solar angle, helps you with the wind down.
Level 10 is gathering data. Now, I would have put this at number 1, but it does cost money, and I've been mindful of trying to put everything that's free ahead of it.
I appreciate that.
The data has been the most important thing I've done. It's helped me create intuitions and knowledge about what improves my sleep and what worsens it.
Yeah, so going back to the food example, eating dinner later, you can kind of intuit that over long periods of time, but it's not a super sharp and precise and clear association. So when you have the data that really makes it clear, it's hard to miss that, and that feedback loop is tighter, you're more likely to make that behavior change. So again, for me, it's these various sleep trackers. I've reviewed the Rings before, Apple Watch, Whoop, 8 Sleep. Those are all sleep trackers, as well as levels for the CGM because of the blood sugar. When my blood sugar is stable overnight, it has a very high degree of correlation with improved sleep quality versus when my blood sugar is doing this all night.
My main tool for tracking sleep is my Whoop band, which tracks how much sleep I got each night, the quality of that sleep.
By the way, putting it on your wrist, super inaccurate. I explained that in my Whoop review video. I actually wear mine on my bicep, and the bicep strap far more accurate because it's just a matter of the vasculature in your wrist versus in your upper arm. Thank you, Bryan, for the video. I, after watching this, realized I need to take my sleep more seriously. I think I'm doing a lot of things well, but the consistency with when I fall asleep and when I wake up, it needs to be improved, and especially being mindful of that when I'm traveling. All right, now on to oral health, something I care a lot about because I've had my own oral health dental issues, periodontal disease, gingivitis, which is surprising because I am insanely meticulous with my teeth, and I always have been. Even when I was younger, growing up, grade school and college, I never missed a day. Or a night, I should say, without exception. Brush in the morning, floss, and brush at night. Even if I'm coming back 6 a.m., 7 a.m. after a crazy night and I'm inebriated and whatever, would never miss. And had excellent oral health until 5 years ago. And slowly I've been having some mild periodontal disease, which is a result of my gastrointestinal inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease. This is an extra-intestinal, outside of the intestines, manifestation of that disease, which is irritating. And gone through a whole process. I'll tell you what I've learned. Let's first see what he has to share with us.
It's possible I have the most extensive oral care of anyone on planet Earth.
Yeah, not surprised.
As with all things Blueprint, you want to take baseline measurements. I know when I've gone into the dentist previously, you go there, they do a cleaning, the dentist will come in, they'll give you a look over and say, no cavities, great, you're good to go. But oftentimes that misses some of the more important elements. So for me, we said we want to look at pocket depth, which is You take from the top of the gum to the bottom of the pocket, and you want to see how deep that is.
Generally, they are doing that at your regular dentist should be doing that. Something like, I don't know the frequency. I do it every 3 to 6 months, the pocket depths, but even a regular dentist is going to be doing that every year or two. So
if it's 1 to 3 millimeters, you're in good shape. If it's 4 or 5, it needs some work.
Yeah, man, I got a lot of 4s now, even a couple 5s.
The second is attachment, where you want to see the firmness around the tooth. Third is you want to see plaque index, the hardened plaque around the tooth. And then you also want to measure how easy or hard it is for your gums to bleed. Now, once you have those baseline measurements, there's a rough idea where your oral health is at. The first thing I do in my protocol is I use a water pick. These can cost anywhere from $40 to $200, but you see it's a high pressure stream of water that comes out like a hose, and you run it along the gum line around your entire teeth. If you brush and floss, and then you use your water pick, you're still gonna see stuff come out. And so it really is effective in getting your mouth really clean. I do this for the first step.
Interesting. So I used a water pick for 2 years, and we ended up deciding it wasn't actually adding value because we've tried a lot of different things with my oral routine, trying to get a handle on this really frustrating situation. And the oral pick, if you have good floss technique and good brushing technique, I did not find much benefit to the water pick. And I don't know why he's doing it before, not later, because shouldn't you try to get most of the gunk out with regular flossing and then do the water pick to see if you might have missed anything? But he's doing it in the reverse direction, which I find interesting. But again, I'm not a dentist or a dental expert, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Flossing is number 2. I use this Dr. Tongues. It has a more thicker string. I think in the studies we evaluated, it showed a 25% increase in the amount of plaque it could pick up from the smaller strands. I used to use Oral-B, now it's Dr. Tongues.
Yeah, you want waxed floss. I use a different brand. I think one thing that is a common critique of Bryan and his team, the way that they approach the literature, is that they aren't always as mindful of the limitations. There's this funny thing going around back when I was in med school and residency about the tie that doctors were serving as a fomite. Now, a fomite is this external thing that can serve as a harbor of pathogens and transmit illnesses. So the tie being a fomite, it might accidentally touch a patient when you're like examining them, bending over, things like that. And then you could do it to another patient, they can get sick. So one study saying, hey, tie is a fomite, therefore doctors shouldn't have to wear it. And then all of us that are tired of wearing our business professional attire and want to go tie-less, we're like, yeah, hey, look at this study. We need to stop wearing ties. It's for our patient safety. And then there's another study that says, hey, ties are not a fomite. There is no risk. So you can always choose in the literature what you want to see. And our job as scientists, as inquisitive individuals, as physicians, as researchers, is to understand the limitations. So I'd be curious to see this study. Is this floss actually better than other alternatives? Or do you just need to find a thicker waxed floss with good technique? Is that more important than using the specific brand? I use Reach by Johnson & Johnson, and my dentist, when they're examining for plaque, they say I have almost no plaque at all. They say it's very, there's a couple of problem areas at like my bottom teeth, just because of your salivary glands squirting out saliva there. But with this, the actual plaque buildup is minimal. They say this, whatever flossing I'm doing is working well. So not sure how important that brand is.
Third step is I use an electric toothbrush. Now I prefer the electric because I find it cleans my teeth better, but you may prefer a manual and that's just fine. Find the one that's right for you.
Sonicare has been clutch. And I thought Sonicare had some specific frequency and certain maybe patented technology, I don't know, that made it highly effective. And I'm not sure if the Oral-B brush has the same thing. I've had some family members that were on the Oral-B brush, but then switched to Sonicare and preferred that.
Now with my electric toothbrush, I prefer soft bristles versus hard because I find that it can clean just as well without the harsh friction.
Yeah, I haven't seen any dentists that recommend medium or hard bristles. Everyone says just go soft. You do not need hard. In fact, you're going to cause issues with your gum line if you go hard and then push too hard.
Small things you can do. For example, you can wait 30 minutes after eating because your teeth enamel get a little soft after eating. So waiting 30 minutes before you brush can be helpful. As for my toothpaste, I currently am using 2. I use 1 in the morning, 1 at night. There's no reason why. I just think it's fun to change toothpaste. Also, I try to get every single bit out of the tube because you know what? Why waste anything? These pass because they don't have fluoride, they help whiten, and they don't have other junk.
Oh, I didn't realize that Sensodyne has a fluoride-free toothpaste. So I've been going for more hydroxyapatite. So essentially, when you're looking at toothpaste, they're going to have either fluoride or hydroxyapatite. And fluoride is the mineral that's going to harden your teeth, and it's helpful in preventing cavities. Hydroxyapatite is a biomimetic. It's very similar to what's naturally occurring in your teeth. And many of those who are like in the functional medicine space and such, a lot of people are pushing for hydroxyapatite being better than fluoride, because fluoride might have potentially, the research is not quite clear, might have some issues with dementia, things like that. So I've been experimenting with a lot of different brands, and the brand I like most, I ordered these from Amazon, and the one I have is Fig in mild mint, and that has been my favorite. I've tried a bunch of different flavors and different brands, and that one is the most enjoyable. Link below.
At number 4 is a tongue scraper. Why didn't anybody tell me about this? These are really important.
Yeah, you're gonna have stinky breath if you don't use this every day, but just be careful not to do it too hard. That's a common issue.
And so this tongue scraper, stick out your tongue, scrape it, do it a few times, and you will notice a very big difference in oral health. Now for mouthwash, I've used this guy. It has xylitol.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you're doing the flossing, brushing, and tongue cleaning with proper technique, you don't need that. You're not going to have stinky breath unless you have like a Zenker's diverticulum or something. That should really cover it. And I've talked to various dentists and periodontists extensively about a lot of these things, and the mouthwash is not going to add much value. Doing those other things is far more important. I will also say though, I actually use the 3% hydrogen peroxide solution. And what I do is twice a day, morning and night, after I brush, I dip an interdental or a proximal brush into hydrogen peroxide solution, and then I go in between my rear teeth. That's where I'm getting more of that periodontal disease. And from both the outside or buccal surface as well as the inside or lingual surface of between each tooth, the four sections up here and down there. And I then do it again at night. But after at night, I will then swish the hydrogen peroxide in my mouth for 30 seconds as well to kill off a lot of the bacteria. The reason I don't do it twice a day, I used to do it twice a day, but I was getting a bit of irritation in my skin because it is a bit harsher. But my dentist was explaining to me that is far more effective in actually killing bacteria than any of these over-the-counter mouthwashes.
Next is bruxism. This one's near and dear to my heart. For 20 years, I was grinding my teeth at night. So I'd go to bed, I'd wake up, and I would catch myself grinding my teeth. It was a really unpleasant sound and feeling, and I couldn't stop myself.
Not good for your jaws, not good for your teeth. I wear retainers, like the Invisalign styled, the clear retainers every night, top and bottom. So that does not damage the teeth then, but can actually get headaches. So when, I'm really stressed, go to sleep, and I'm clenching a lot more. So what does he suggest?
The dentist I spoke with would recommend a mouth guard of some variety. Sometimes it was hard.
Mine looks just like that.
Sometimes it was soft. I would grind my way through those. It didn't stop my grinding. It just created a cushion for my teeth, but it still created the wear and tear. When you're grinding, it not only just creates wear and tear on the teeth, but also increases pocket depth. It increases attachment loss. It just ages your entire mouth.
And it's also not good for your temporomandibular joint or your TMJ.
The dentist recently on Blueprint recommended this one, which is Somno Dent Device. And what it does, it's a top and a bottom layer, and it arrests your mouth. When you first put it in, you feel claustrophobic because it just, you can't move at all. Over time, it becomes very soothing. And so for the first time in my life, it's been able to arrest my bruxism, and it has stopped the decay of my teeth quality. And then of course, we all know this, it's wise to visit the dentist every 6 months or so to get a teeth cleaning, remove the stains, and get an assessment on how we're doing with our oral health. Now for basic life decision-making on a day-to-day basis, there are 3 simple ones to follow. 1 is avoid sugar. It's bad for the teeth. 2 is be mindful that some people's teeth can be sensitive to acidic liquids. For example, sipping on lemon water or caffeine. And so exposing your teeth all day long to that can be bad. And 3 is assess for dry mouth condition.
So sugar, bad, not just for your teeth, but for your body overall. The acidity thing, what I've learned recently is that it's not just a matter of avoiding it, because oftentimes, like if I'm going to have a protein shake after a workout, I'm going to put fruit in there and it's going to be acidic. But if I don't swish with water or something else immediately after, that acidity takes hours and hours for my saliva to naturally neutralize. And instead, if I do either drink water or rinse my mouth, then that can help get me to that more neutral pH balance a lot sooner.